Our guest today is the Congresswoman for Illinois' 2nd Congressional District. She has served in Congress for 7 months. There we go. Our guest today, she said she was nervous, so let's make her not be nervous, okay? So, see, they're already eating out of your hand, the Congresswoman. Our guest today is the daughter of a grocer and was born in Harlem. She earned her bachelor's degree from Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. She earned her PhD in political science from Northern Illinois University. Prior to being elected Congresswoman, she also served in the Illinois General Assembly. Our guest today lives in Matteson with her husband, Dr. Nathaniel Horn. Ladies and gentlemen, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Robin, there we go. See? Nothing to be nervous about. All right, have fun.
My staff worked really hard and made really big letters so I didn't have to use my glasses, but I'm sorry, they're not big enough. Thank you for that introduction. It's great to be back home among old friends, or should I say longtime friends, not old. I'm honored to be re-invited to speak here today. I trust you all know about the government shutdown, which prevented me from being here last month as originally scheduled, but let's not dwell on that. One thing I will say about the past month, it's been quite an experience, one that I couldn't possibly have imagined. Needless to say, my first few months in Congress have been quite an odyssey, a very eventful start to what was an unexpected journey for me. Taking office in April meant that I started 3 months behind the other freshman representatives. And let me tell you, coming in after a special election is a lot like trying to build a ship in the middle of the ocean. But fortunately, we're still sailing, and none of my staff has abandoned me yet. There was no time for a learning curve. I had constituents who needed representation now, many of whom had sent me messages as early as February when I won the primary, asking for help. So I had to assemble a district staff immediately to be responsive to their needs. And what did I walk into in DC? A House of Representatives that some say is the most partisan in our nation's history. But I'm an optimist at heart. Despite the sequester, budget fights, opposition to the Affordable Care Act, and the recent shutdown, I do see glimmers of hope. I've heard thoughtful ideas and seen courageous efforts on both sides of the aisle in getting our country back on the right track. So I'm excited about my work in Congress and look forward to continuing to help guide a much-needed course correction in this country. In that vein, I've focused primarily on 2 areas since taking office: reducing gun violence and economic development. As you know, everyone knows, gun violence took center stage in my campaign, both because of the shootings in Chicago and because of the Sandy Hook school shootings in Newtown, Connecticut, which occurred just 2 weeks after I declared my candidacy. Since then, senseless gun violence has taken the lives of so many more innocent children and adults alike and destroyed families across our country who live in places like Santa Monica, Sparks, Nevada, our nation's capital, just last week, Los Angeles, and of course, the Chicagoland area. There are no easy answers to what seems like a growing epidemic in our nation, nor is there one simple solution for all. But I've always looked at reducing gun violence and expanding economic development as working in tandem as part of my broader plan for community revitalization. You can't have safe communities without economic opportunities, and you can't attract businesses to communities that are unsafe. For communities to thrive, you have to give people who live there the kinds of opportunities they can build on. Opportunities that give them a sense of pride and a solid foundation for success. That's why I've been working on legislation to help underserved communities get grant funding to support their economic growth, business retention, and business recruitment. For example, I want to incentivize realtors and other businesses to set up shop in the development deserts that tend to plague minority communities regardless of household income. These areas are primed for development, but their ethnic profile has proven to be an unfair barrier. The idea is to draw businesses to both working class and middle class minority communities so that they have access to quality services and amenities close to home. Last week, I introduced 2 bills that will put veterans and unemployed Americans back to work by offering tax credits to the businesses that hire them. These laws are already on the books, but they're due to expire in December. After fighting for our nation, no veteran should have to come home and fight for a job. Likewise, every American who's willing and able to work should have a fair shake at getting a job, even those who have made a mistake in their past. That's the only way we can make this more perfect union truly more perfect and secure the economic prosperity of our country. And that begins with strengthening our economy right here at home. Just yesterday, I hosted a small business workshop to provide resource information to people who want to start or expand a business. We had a capacity crowd. Much like last month when I held a job fair at South Suburban College that drew nearly 1,500 job seekers. These events underscore the eagerness of people to find work or start their own businesses, which is why I'm working hard to provide more opportunities for individuals to find gainful employment and to grow their companies. This week, I've been traveling around my district on an economic development tour to help create just those kinds of opportunities. I've made stops in Chicago and Kankakee and all points in between to hear from business owners, large and small, about their challenges and concerns. Because when trying to promote business growth and job creation, it makes sense to start by listening to people who are growing businesses and creating jobs. I'm also launching an economic development council composed of some of our area's business leaders and scholars who will help generate ideas on how we can make the 2nd District an economic engine for our region. I still have some slots available on the council, by the way, so don't be surprised if some of you get a recruiting call from me, and I will not take no for an answer. I recently formed a STEM council to encourage science and tech companies to set up shop in the 2nd District and to invest in increasing access to science, technology, engineering, and math education to help better prepare our young people for careers of tomorrow. And I am continuing my push for construction of the South Suburban Airport and the Ileana Expressway, 2 job-creating infrastructure projects. I know those are the folks from the South Suburb. That are vital to the economic future of my district and our state. In recent months, I've met in Washington with U.S. Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx, the head of the Federal Aviation Commission, Michael Huerta, and the head of the Federal Highway Administration, Victor Mendez, to express the need for these projects in Illinois. Now I know that not everyone is sold on the airport or the Ileana, but we in the Southland are used to getting pushed back against our plans for progress, and we're often an afterthought in the broader discussion of regional planning, relegated to the back of the line while projects in other areas seem to breeze right past us. But believe me, it is in all of our best interests to have a thriving South Suburbs. The South Suburban region is already economically vibrant, even though it has yet to tap into its full potential. It's a major transportation and logistics hub domestically and internationally. It is the only place served by all 6 Class 1 railroads, which makes us the biggest freight hub in the United States. The southeast side of Chicago is home to the largest inland general cargo port in America. And the city as a whole, in fact, the entire metro region, is the commercial transportation crossroads of our nation. I'm pleased to say that the South Side is experiencing other positive signs of economic revitalization. Just last week, a new 2-mile extension of South Lakeshore Drive opened alongside 600 acres of beautiful lakefront property for new development. And a few miles away is the Pullman community, where a major push is underway to create a national park dedicated to honoring American workers as well as Chicago's industrial and transportation heritage. A strong South Side and South suburban region mean a stronger Chicagoland and a stronger Illinois, because a rising tide lifts all boats. We need vibrant, thriving communities with strong schools and safe neighborhoods that attract upwardly mobile families by offering them the ability to work and shop where they live, where faith and leadership is restored, and where every resident has a voice and is invested in our future. That is my vision for the 2nd District and for the state of Illinois. I must admit, when I was a kid, I never thought for one moment I would be a member of Congress. And actually, I have to admit, most of my adult life, I never thought about it either. But I always knew I wanted to be involved in public service. I knew that I wanted to make a difference through service, that I wanted to connect with people, and that I wanted to bring together diverse groups from different backgrounds to work together in the best interests of our country. Indeed, that's just what a member of Congress does, at least what he or she should do. That philosophy, the idea that public service is about uniting, not dividing, is what influenced the many local and statewide positions I've held previously, and it is my guiding principle in Congress. That said, I find myself in Congress when its productivity is at an all-time low. Most people don't like us, and at a time when the stakes for our nation couldn't be higher. So what can we do to get our country back on the right track? First and foremost, members of Congress must foster better relationships across the aisle to move America in a positive direction. Two of the first people I connected with when I got to Washington were Congressman Aaron Schock and Congressman Randy Hultgren, both Republicans. I had great relationships with both of them when we served in the Illinois General Assembly. In fact, I've known Aaron since I was a Bradley University trustee and he an undergrad at the school, but maybe I shouldn't share all that. But we can't tackle the more pressing issues facing our nation if we're distracted by partisan discord. In order to turn things around, we have to stop focusing on what divides us and start searching for common ground for the common good. That means creating a common sense budget to strengthen job creation and the economy while continuing to reduce the budget deficit in a balanced and responsible way. The sequester caused automatic spending cuts that are weakening our educational system and the military, and that cost America 800,000 jobs. For our country to truly prosper, we must stop cutting into the marrow of our most vital programs and instead trim the fat by cutting wasteful spending on special interest subsidies and closing tax loopholes so that the wealthiest Americans and big corporations pay their share. That's what's fair, and that's the way forward. We must fix our broken immigration system, giving the millions of undocumented people in this country the chance to live and work legally is and always has been an essential step in building the character of our country and the strength of our economy. A fair and functional immigration system will add 3.5 million jobs by the year 2024. It will also reduce the deficit by nearly $850 billion over 20 years and boost Social Security by adding more than $250 billion to the program over 10 years. Finally, we need a farm bill. Passing a strong farm bill is critical to the prosperity of farmers and rural communities in my district, as well as to the American economy. The agriculture industry supports 16 million American jobs. With the help of the Farm Bill, farmers and small business will reach new markets. A Farm Bill will also bolster job-creating, homegrown clean energy and preserve farms when disaster strikes, all while reducing the deficit. If a Farm Bill is not passed by the end of the year, American families will face much higher food prices at the grocery store next year, while still recovering from a down economy. But a Farm Bill compromise could be at risk if some House Republicans insist on draconian cuts to food aid for struggling American children and families. Such cuts weaken our families, our communities, and our economy. That's what we need to be focused on: passing a common sense budget, creating jobs, building America's infrastructure, and fixing immigration. as well as promoting the growth of our economy by supporting our farmers and small businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of work to do. But that's the road to recovery for our families, that's the road to recovery for our businesses, and that's the road to recovery for our nation. Thanks again, and I want to especially thank my staff who's sprinkled all over and my friends who are all over too. So thanks so much.
If you have a question, just raise it up and our City Club people will pick it up and deliver it.
No questions. I have to answer questions.
A few, don't worry. Just feel more comfortable than the speaker because you don't have Cantor, Ryan, and McCarthy standing behind you. See, these are the kind of questions I like. Anonymous. City Club rules, Miss Black. Okay. Jeffrey Colored Haymarket Center. By the way, good printing. Look at that, beautiful. Substance abuse is often the root of both gun violence and economic challenge in communities. Do you support increasing funding to expand substance abuse treatment and vocational services for former addicts? Start off with a little soft pitch.
Actually, last night I was at, or participated with Governor State University. They had a program, Respond to Violence, and one of the organizations that participated was TASK. And what the representatives there spoke about, and there actually was someone who did have a drug addiction problem, was in jail almost his whole life, and he talked about how TASK changed his life, and he's now an administrator there. So I do support more money for mental health, for alcohol and drug abuse, and we have to give people coming out of jail a second chance, else we're going to send them right back to jail if they can't get a job. So we have to be supportive, and I definitely believe in vocational training, but also I believe in it for our high school students also. I think we've moved too far away from it, and when I speak to manufacturers all over this state really, and I spoke to the national manufacturers, and what they're saying is that they cannot find enough skilled people to, to take the jobs from people retiring, and also you don't have to have a college education, you just need certifications. I was with the IBEW, the electrical workers, and the guy shared with me that you have to be good in geometry, so I told him I could never have that job, but it's not necessary that you have to have a college education. So parents also need to change their paradigm of forcing all of our children to go to college. Someone used the example of if you're a psych major, he didn't know I was in college, but if you're a psych major and now you're graduating and you're in the hole 50 or 60,000 and you can't find a job, that we really need to guide our kids toward other areas. So yes, I do believe in it. Long answer to your question.
It's a good question here. David Marzani, is that it? Good question. That's a good on the penmanship, but it's a very good question. Center for Economic Progress. This is a good question. Given the myriad of political jurisdictions and artificial boundaries in the south suburbs, remember, I'm a 23-year veteran right here, what role do you anticipate playing to bring more coordinated services and infrastructure to the Southland?
I'm not sure. Do you mean local, county working together in that way? Actually, we do work together, and the Ileana is a good example of that we all came together on the local level, on the state level, and the federal level, Democrat and Republican, chamber and union, not always people that see eye to eye. So we have gotten together, and I think a lot of the mayors, if you speak to them, there's more and more of a regional approach because we have to stick together.
Flynn Crawford from the Kimbark Laundry. I assume this is a Hyde Park operation? Only.
How would you know that?
I didn't get this job by a lottery, madam. I went to school here in Chicago. When will Congress get back to mentioning the jobs program?
That's a very good question. We ask it all the time, but I'm not to get political, but we bring it up all the time, but that doesn't seem to be the focus right now, but I totally agree with you.
Well, this is sort of a, well, what the heck?
Now you scare.
Yeah, well, we normally don't ask this question, but D. Robinson Noble Network of High-Performing Schools. This is more of a chance to meet with you. I'm working with several Southside ministers to explore how a high-quality high school education can reduce violence. Would you be willing to meet with us? No, she won't. No,
My scheduler, my boss, Tony Presta, raise your hand, is right in the room, so see him before you leave.
Okay, well, this is an anonymous question, but since I did the research on it, as we discussed earlier, I'll ask it. Breaking the rule with Stella's permission. Here we go. When will talks resume regarding the Peatone Airport in Ileana?
I mean, we're talking right now, so I'm not sure what you mean. We're just waiting for some reports to come through from the FAA for the airport, and then the Ileana, now it's back, it's in the state's hands, and the governor will move it along, and they have to put out a request for proposal, actually for the airport and the Ileana.
For the record, I held the first module on the airport in 1985 at Governor State University. And if I had a clean shovel, it'd still be clean. How about a big round of applause for our speaker?